Now emerged, the Mineral Resources Department has confirmed, in answer to a question from the IFP, that it granted no mining licenses last year from applications. That means the department did not officially grant anyone the right to mine or the right to explore areas to mine them later in that financial year. The report published this morning by the Daily Maverick website. The journalist who wrote it is Ed Stoddard. Ed, good afternoon to you. Just to be clearer on this, which licenses and applications and permits are we looking at?
So the term mining license, which was actually used in the question and the reply, isn't exactly correct. The terms are mining rights and mining permits and prospecting rights and that kind of thing. And a mining right, as I understand it, would be for a significant kind of mine that would require proper EIAs and social and labor plans and things like that. A mining permit is much smaller. It covers 5 hectares, and it's kind of aimed at, fostering, small quarries and things like that in small towns and things like that. And as well as, obviously, exploration or prospecting.
So if you're prospecting for something, you need to get a permit to do that first?
Precisely.
Okay. So in this case, are we talking about people who applied in the financial year up until the end of December last year? So no one who applied in January got a license, or even going back, no one who applied for a license in 2022 got it in 2023?
Well, I'm not sure about that. So the question was specifically about the 2023-2024 financial year, and the reply was given on December 8th. And it was just pointed out to me by somebody who had picked it up off the Parliamentary Monitoring Group, which is an NGO which does some very good work on this front, just to try to keep the South African public informed about what's going on in Parliament. And it was a Christian Missaming, was an IFP member of the National Assembly, who had asked basically how many, he's used the term license, but anyway, how many sort of mining rights and permit applications have been made so far in the financial year. He asked for a provincial breakdown, and he asked how many had been provided to to women and people with disabilities. And of course, no woman or person with a disability got one because nobody had gotten one by that point. And so we don't know how big the backlog is now, because we don't know how many were outstanding from the previous financial year.
Has there been any explanation for this at all? I mean, we know how important mining is. We know how many people still in South Africa live off mining. In other words, how many people are supported by each mine worker underground. Is there any explanation from the department as to why this has happened?
Not yet. I did ask them before I published my story, and I didn't get a response. And curiously, I've not seen any reaction from the department today. I've seen plenty of reader reaction, and I've had people from the mining industry and even labor unions reach out to me about it. But the DMRE seems to be silent, and I think I don't know, it just seems to be rudderless right now, and it does seem that its administrative capabilities are sinking.
Within that is a thing called the cadastral system, and I think this is the second time I've ever actually said that word out loud. What exactly is that? It sort of maps where minerals are, maps where people are mining.
Yeah, so a functional cadastral system, Botswana and Namibia, for example, have one. It's an online portal that transparently shows what is known about a country's sort of geological resources. And at the same time, it allows investors, mining companies, etc., to apply for various mineral rights, and it shows the state of play. It shows, De Beers has a license to mine diamonds here, and another Anglo-American unit has a permit to explore for whatever commodity X there, and it allows you to apply and presumably to get it processed within a matter of weeks or months or whatever. And so it brings transparency. And South Africa, under the DMRE now for years has been promising one to replace its SOMROD system for applications, which is part of the problem here, is that the SOMROD system, people have been complaining about it for years, and it seems to now to have completely melted down, as far as I can see. And so this has been going on for years, this attempt to get a cadastral system. In August last year, the minister said that, or the DG, I think, said that a preferred bidder had been selected, and that the CETA was doing the audit, and that would be announced in October. And so that didn't happen, so I asked the DMRE about it in November, and they said, please refer your questions to CETA. It's out of our hands now. Fair enough. So I've been pestering CETA about it off and on since November, and there's no response.
So, without a cadastral system, can you really grant licenses? The companies wouldn't know even where to apply.
Well, this is part of the problem. And the part of the problem is to replace the SOMRAD system, which it came online in 2011. It had teething problems from the start, but I checked the speech that Susan Shabangu made in June 2012 when she was the Mineral Resources Minister. And she said, we've had teething problems with SOMRAD from the start, I know, but she said, recently we've managed to get through 3,500 applications. And this was in June 2012, gone online in March 2011, and perhaps they even got through more. But, they were getting through 3,500 over a certain period of time then. And now it seems 2,500 is just overwhelming the department.
There must be long-term consequences to this, because if we don't have people looking for minerals now, we won't have mines later, 10, 20 years' time. Mining is a long-term business, as we know. In other words, in 20 years' time, when we say, what happened to all the mining, the roots of that problem could be being laid right now. The roots of that are being laid right now. And on top of that, it's also a deterrent to investors who would be contemplating coming into the mining industry here. Why would you try to apply for a mining right or an exploration right or what have you when you think it's going to be gummed up for months or years and is going to be caught up in this log jam? I would imagine also some of the minerals we have are in places like Botswana and Namibia who have a functioning system. Well, indeed. But we also, we do have significant resources too, which aren't really found elsewhere, or not in the same abundance, such as manganese and platinum group metals. But of course, most of the PGMs, for example, that we know about, there are mining companies which have existing licenses and things like that. This would require, for no one to get a license for this long, you would think the president would be involved by this point, or that big business or the mining groups themselves would be shouting. Well, funny you should raise that, because at the mining indaba in February last year in Cape Town, the president said that, that they were ready to get an off-the-shelf cadastral system. Now he's going to have his minister explain to him why, a year later, why that hasn't happened. Is it expensive to do? I know that can be quite technically difficult to do, but other countries must do it. Well, Zimbabwe has one that's going to go online soon, for example. And in Botswana, Namibia, Zimbabwe, some other African countries, Kenya's one, use a system that's been developed by a company called Trimble, which is actually a made in South African solution. Cape Town based. It's now owned by a Colorado-based company. That might kind of exclude them on the BEE front or something like that. I don't know. But this is the system of choice that's favored by the industry and is favored by neighboring countries. But it seems to bring a level of transparency to this process, which I just have a feeling that the DMRE is uncomfortable with. They don't want transparency. I don't think, because there is so much, because the DMRE's administrative system is such a shambles, with a whiff of corruption around it, that I don't think that they don't want the public to be able to drill down with that kind of level of detail. It's Stoddard. Thank you. Journalist at Daily Maverick, who published today's story. Do appreciate the time.